r/ask Reddit. What scientific experiment would you run if money and ethics weren't an issue? The Gilligan's Island experiment. Shipwreck 100 people with vastly different backgrounds, wealth disparity, and personalities on a remote island. See what kind of civilization grows from it. Then do it 50 more times to check results against each other. See if a monkey tribe could become dominant over the rest by training them to make and use weapons and other primitive technology. Also interested in seeing if they would take their newfound knowledge and begin to expand an empire. So one thing they did learn about chimps is that they don't teach each other. They often are observers. A monkey see monkey do situation. Humans teach other, but we also have an inherent trust in others when we are young, so we trust what we are being taught is true. Humans as adults will teach each other and form ideally mutually beneficial relationships. It is what gave us a huge advantage in developing material cultures like stone tools being made in a similar pattern by different groups of people. We learn from each other more than other great apes than just when we are young. If one individual is taught to make a spear, it won't go back to its troop and it won't proactively teach others to make a spear for the benefit of the group, but the others who see it make a spear will make their own after watching the first chimp do it. I've always wanted to try to breed a winter blooming rose. Ethics are fine, but the cost of having that many roses in a hothouse and the decades of selective breeding most likely required to accomplish it would cost an astronomical amount. So I'm sticking with it. This is one of the most interesting replies I've read that isn't cruel or obscure. It seems so simple and achievable, yet I fully understand the ridiculous amount of money and work involved as you described it to achieve the desired outcome. Have an Olympics where every single athlete is drugged to an insane level. I think it would raise what is possible by today's standards drastically. Not just drugs, bionic parts, gene therapy, hormone treatments, the Mega Olympics, where you can match a man-horse hybrid race against the $6 million man. And that man-horse is trained from birth to do nothing but race. Like, horribly punished whenever he shows any ambition other than racing. Can barely speak a full sentence. But Forrest Gump's the instant he is told to run from point A to point B. His legs are built like concrete and the training facility has the toilet clogged all the time because his urine is so packed with steroids that there is muscle tissue growing inside the plumbing. How long a decapitated head stays conscious? All we have are anecdotes that might have been exaggerated. I've always wanted a definitive answer, but you know, ethics. It's been done 7-10 seconds. So you gotta start planning on your last words now, you won't have time then. My current is I'm going to head out. You won't have lungs, boss. Just switch a shop vac from suck to blow and stick it on their windpipe. They can talk really loud then. Maybe even louder than the shop vac. They wouldn't even need to stop to take a breath. How athletes from different sports react to fight or flight. Even further, would they fight differently than others? UFC fighters just walking around killing all of the other athletes. Until a biathlon guy pull out his gun and start shooting. How would the world react to a mountain of 100 billion pennies for free in the middle of a major area? This sounds so dumb but is really ducking interesting if you think about it. I thought that said penises at first. Either way, I'd show up with a bucket and fill it to the goddamn brim about 500 times over the course of 24 hours. Near-death experiences and what people see. So basically I'd want to kill a bunch of people then bring them back to life. I'm sure a lot of them wouldn't make it back. Ever seen the OA? No. What is it? Literally that. Like, word for word pretty much. Dinosaur cloning. What else is there to do? Humans have quite a few movies that tell you that dinosaur cloning is a bad idea on Earth. Oh man, I love this question. There are a ton of geoengineering experiments that I'd love to run if they weren't both 1. Illegal, 2. Insanely expensive, 3. Non-zero possibility of death and destruction. Iron fertilization. Basically dumping tons of iron dust into the ocean to cause an algae bloom, which should sequester a bunch of carbon and help mitigate global warming. Cloud seeding. Space mirrors. Dropping a nuke into a volcano. You know, normal stuff. What are the downsides of iron fertilization? A big ass algae bloom would block sunlight and kill tons of water vegetation and the animals that don't eat algae. Genetic altering of humans. I don't currently have an issue with anyone that wants to do it on themselves. However, to do it to an embryo or through the parent's DNA to see what we could do to advance humans would be amazing. Alterations to intelligence, memory, physical attributes, gills to swim underwater, visual alterations to see the full light spectrum and hearing for the full sound spectrum, immunity to all diseases and harmful bacteria, ability to eat almost anything for sustenance. Definitely this and cloning. If we had no qualms about the ethical implications, we would make leaps and bounds in biological sciences. Raise a child without ever punishing or rewarding them. Just let them do whatever they want, and then see what happens to their behavior when they age. They will still be punished and rewarded by their environment. This will only answer the question to what environment was the kid born in, rather than, perhaps, breaking down inherent genetic aspect of behavior. Remove their amygdala and their pain receptors, and, somehow, prevent them from receiving dopamine. Then they can't have any reward or consequence. I've actually thought a ton about this. I would put two people through the exact same conditions the entire life. Now I'm not talking just similar scenarios, but everything from the weather inside the womb to the humans they interact with to the wind every day. And I would see if they are the same. Essentially, if humans are born with personalities or if we develop them through little things all our life. Essentially the butterfly effect. TBH, this probably wouldn't even be possible with infinite money, but it would be cool. I would really love to read a paper about this experiment. TBH. Have a baby human raised by apes. Basically to see if Tarzan scenario would occur and the human is able to communicate fully with the apes. I'd run a serial killer contest. First person to successfully kidnap and kill 50 people receives $10 million 1 year after the last kill, if they are not caught by authorities and if they can prove the killings. How many persons would undertake this? How many victims would there be? Can I just say, if they created a show series with this plot, I'd definitely watch it. But what could the title be? Redesigning the human sinus. I wish to find a way to modify the body to fix that mess of an airway. Sometimes I think about how there's just hollow cavities behind your face and get really anxious. It's specifically the Mayo Clinic illustration that comes up when you Google sinusitis. That shit makes my chest tight. From the time I was born I was sick for 5 straight years with remissions lasting maybe a week here and there, with the docs scratching their heads as to why. But finally they decided my mom must have Munchausen syndrome. As a nurse and mother, she was very offended by this and told them to do a full body CAT scan or else she wasn't taking me home. They found out I was born without sinus openings and or polyps in my sinus cavities. Can't remember which, and I had to have holes drilled in my head and tubes put in M. Functional endoscopic sinus surgery, or FES, I think it was called. Everything improved after that. Still get sinus headaches a lot, but that's neither here nor there. Brain transplants from humans to animals and vice versa. I'm thinking that the physical biology is too different for that specific cross-species surgery to work. Maybe start between humans, do a swap and see if they fare. But imagine watching a dolphin in a human body figuring out how to move and adapt. I'd love to pit elite Madden gamers versus NFL play callers and see who is better at game management and play calling. Hail Mary every ducking time. They'll never see it coming. Not necessarily a scientific experiment, but a series of experiments to see how you can control nerve sensations from the brain and whether it can create VR that can perfectly mimic the sensation of touch whilst being motionless. As if you're moving and touching something in a virtual world but not in the real world. Is that even possible? Calm down, Akihiko Koba. I want to send someone to space without a spacesuit. I've read about everything that can happen. I just want to see it on film. To measure the effect on development of humankind by eliminating the least intelligent 5% of the human population every year based on monthly standardized testing. Damn, this film sounded great till I found out Logan Paul was in it. Maybe he is an evil genius and his whole YouTube persona is a facade for his real plan. Gathering a database of names through subscribers for the 5%. I'd like to know what people would really do for a Klondike bar. I've always been really curious what the results of the Holocaust twin experiments would be if they were run by a sane person. If I didn't have to worry about the fact that I was slaughtering a bunch of children, which very much goes against my morals, I'd recreate those. Do you have some particular experiment in mind? Basically all of Mengel's twin experiments I heard of, aside from being of course horrible, made no sense whatsoever. The only one I know of that seems like it would give borderline meaningful data is the one about carefully measuring the bodies of twins to find out which traits are hereditary and which ones aren't. Perhaps not coincidentally, it is also pretty much the only one that does not seem pointless cruelty for cruelty's sake. Which prescription drugs aren't really dangerous to mix with alcohol, and to what dosage can you be closest to death without dying so I can get litty? I would breed and engineer dogs to become more intelligent, until they can understand the concept of I am coming back soon. Don't worry, they deserve it for helping us get this far as a species. I'd raise a group of children from birth to adulthood, kinda a Truman Show thing, without any contact with music, and see how it affects their lives and personalities. I'd make sure everything else would be normal but music would be edited out of their lives. Put a baby in a pure white room at room temperature and find a way keep them alive with no human interference. What would they do for their whole life? The Doctor Who episode wherein they bred artificially grown humans, infect them each with all known diseases so that they can develop antibodies cures. Put 100 babies from different countries on an island with a bunch of mute caretakers, then see what their language would sound like. I wanna see if the same franchise of a restaurant chain in demographically similar areas would have differing amounts of profit based on whether they let the employees be mean to customers if they want. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.